All right. Well, no time like the present. We'll get started here. I realize the term doesn't even start till tomorrow, but a lot of people will start sending me questions and asking about how things are going to be conducted. So I'll go ahead and put this out there. And typically, I typically strive to put the lectures out on Tuesdays, which means that sometimes there's some glitches with YouTube or whatever, and it doesn't get up there till Wednesday or something. But anyway, that's been my habit pattern before, and I'll go through more about how the course is going to work. But I try to make it as kind of normal as possible with lectures. Distance is, it's not great for you or I, but I've been doing it for a few years, well before COVID, and so it's kind of hard. If you got feedback, let me know. But it's kind of hard as an instructor to make it relevant because you're essentially talking to a screen. I got a dog chewing on a bone quite loudly, so that noise will probably continue, but we'll see what happens. I'm going to go through the syllabus, and I'm going to talk about chapter one, and that's pretty much going to be it for this first week. And obviously, once the syllabus is kind of the big deal because that will kind of set the tone and let you know what's going to be expected for the course and hopefully answer a bunch of questions. I've been up in Alaska for, oh, I don't know, I guess since 2010. I was active duty military. I flew for the Air Force for 23 years, but I also did a lot of business stuff on the side because the nature of what I was doing was like that. I raised a Hungarian Vizslas. Again, that other noise is one of my pups had 11. Well, she's not a pup herself, but she had 11 pups. So I also raised a lot of pigs, two daughters. Um, One of my daughters is real big in rodeo. She's and they're both grown up though. I need to update the pictures. Um, yeah, I used to fly F4s. I flew F-15s afterwards. This airplane I've got, but it's currently not up here right now. This is Obby, and this horse is actually whatever old enough to be ridden now. They grow fast, but anyway, not that fast. Oh, there she is. As a matter of fact, sorry, he's a gelding. So, Um, I own a campground, and so property goes back over here a ways. It's a big chunk of property, but this was just an open area that a lot of you are probably familiar with it. And they always talk about some a-hole who made it private property. It wasn't really a choice. It was being overrun, covered with trash, and all of my neighbors were giving me a fit because it was my property now. A church used to own the property. It's just short of 100 acres out on the Connect River. But anyway, so the best solution was just to turn it into a paid campground where we can have, toilets and a couple people, host people out there that I use. And anyway, it all gets taken care of. I ended up with some sheep now as well. More dogs. I guess I was going to edit this photo, but I didn't really size it down. Tamworth pigs. This old girl, as they do, she went by the wayside. She was an angry pig. These other ones are down on the campground. This one had some birthday cake and bow. Um, so anyway, I tend to stay pretty busy. I've got an MBA, and then I actually ended up with a PhD from University of Southampton in England, but that's years ago. I spent a lot of time in Europe, and that's actually when I got hired up here. Booz Allen, these guys, they wanted me to go to Stuttgart, but ended up in Alaska, and so it all worked out good. I've got a side business that's kind of been overtaken. I still do the equestrian stuff, but now it's mainly ranchers and things like that. I kind of killed the equestrian market because I sold a whole bunch of panels and they don't go away. So I sell more cattle shoots, and well, I still sell at least a truckload of panels a summer, but it's not like it used to be. Got a real estate license. I know a little about that business, and especially enough not to want to be involved in it career wise. But anyway, I mean, some people do it, but it's a hard job to balance when you're trying to do multiple things. And so now I've got too many things going on, and it'd be hard to reach critical mass as a salesperson. So that was not necessarily hard to let that go. When I say I was in the military after I flew for probably the first half of my career, the second half was doing, business stuff. So um, we had a big deal in Luxembourg. We were getting helicopters from Lithuania, selling them to, uh, well, have another country sponsor them and giving them to the Afghanis to fly and things like that. So we did a lot of there's a lot of business related tasks that gave me a pretty good experience in that realm, and so that's why I got the MBA and then the PhD in business after that. And then Kinnick River Ranch is it's still what I'm called a campground. I think the actual ranch is going to be Parker Ranch, but I don't necessarily want my name associated with a campground because sometimes things go south there, and it's Butte, Jim Creek area. I can't really control everything that goes on out there. So anyway, this is what happened. So this is just an outline of the property. I sound like I'm just talking about this, but yeah, I'm telling you, sometimes to do big real estate transactions, it has to be take some doing. So this flood hazard and the fact that it was owned by a church. Anyway, I split the thing up into threes. When I bought it, and this was the old line. This is what the church thought they owned, but what they actually owned when I did a proper survey was all the way out to here. So this is essentially what I was talking about with the campground area. But anyway, yeah, they sold it to me as 70 acres, but it actually legally they owned all 93 or whatever it is. It's kind of hard to judge acreage when it changes. You know, not every season, but things will change. Connect River Bridge is right here. This is the old Glen going in. So I'm not going to jump so much into this right now, but this is a chart that's you can download the PowerPoint and download these things as an attachment. But there's three of them in a series. If you notice as I roll through those slides, a 5%, an 8%, and a 10%. And so, what we're going to talk about when we get to the lecture, once we finish with talking about the syllabus, we're going to talk about compound interest and exactly what that can do for you. And so, that's going to be kind of the whole, if you take anything away from this course, it's understanding how compound interest works because it can have, it will have a significant impact on your life for good or for worse. So, if you're somebody who knows how to use compound interest in terms of earning interest and having investments, this is going to work out great for you. If you're somebody who doesn't, then you're going to be paying interest, and you're never ever going to, your life's going to be focused, probably focused more on money than somebody with money because it's much harder to go through life as poor. It takes a lot more of your time because you're constantly concerned with money and it's sounds cliche, but it's very expensive to be poor because you can't take advantage of situations and you get hit with these last minute expenses that you have no control over. And so anyway, we're going to spend a lot of time on those charts, but first let's jump to the syllabus. Um, the syllabus is um, on Blackboard, so assume everybody knows how to use Blackboard. I'm not gonna bore you with that. But the syllabus is fairly explanatory of situations you're going to run up against. Um, course information, fall 2020. I got all that right. That's my name, my email, cell phone. The book. So, if you are new to college, the way people, professors especially, they need to be published. So, an easy way for that is they write a textbook and then they make some money off it too. They sell it. So, um, and then they, release new editions and claim it's been published again. So they come up with new editions and new editions, and that's not something you need to worry about. You could, if you're, again, good at personal finance, you can find ways to get an edition. Um, a fifth or sixth or something for considerably less money. And then, of course, they're going to try and sell you like a MyLab, one of these extra things that we do not need. So, um, but again, most of you will sell the book at the end too. So if you don't pay much for it, you're not going to get much for it, but that's fine. Um, Outcomes, yep, get you thinking about it. We'll talk more about it, but this is kind of what I was talking about before. That um, if you think you can ignore money and personal finance and get by just fine, that's probably not going to work for you or the people around you, because your ignorance or ignoring the subject is going to come back to bite you, and it's going to make life harder. So, um, the way the exams are going to work, there's going to be two of them. So the first one, and again, I'm telling you, I'm going to get 20 emails on this. People thinking they need a proctor for the midterm. You do not need a proctor for the midterm. You just take it online. Just go on Blackboard, log on, and take that exam. Now, obviously, there's some flaws with that kind of system, even though it's timed and stuff. It's not the best evaluation because there's no control, or less control, let's just say. So for the second one, there's a proctored exam for the final, but the proctored exam, I work with e-learning people. I turn the test over to them, and I've had real good luck working with them, at least from a structure standpoint. I haven't got too many complaints from a student standpoint either. So, um, the folks there will usually, RP Now has been the system that they're using, like Remote Proctor now, and it seems to work just fine. But it needs to be set up. So, um, so this is the request a proctor, and this is kind of a cut and paste from the UAA e-learning people. So when you call them up to get things going, this is what they're looking for, and they'll have a list of what's possible. But the RP Now system, I believe you need to have a like a webcam or whatever, and it's even assessing your eye movement. If you're looking off like you're looking at a book or doing something, it may just close up on you, and then it makes it a little more difficult for you to do stuff. Plus, it's timed and it's a fairly lengthy test. So even if it were open book, most people would, if they did it that way, they wouldn't finish. Anyway, there's their number and everything about it. One of the kind of the highlights of the course is the at least I think it's a highlight. Anyway, the term project, and this is sort of one of those things that you would do if you had the time. And so through this course, we kind of force you to do it, and it's to basically set up your goals in life. Now, if you're just let's say you're a traditional college student, you might be living with your parents. You might not be making much in the way of income because your primary job is to be a student. Then you probably pick a point in your life, say 5 years out, when your numbers would be more relevant, when you'd be immersed in your career. And then there's other people, in fact, there's some people that are, older than I am that are taking this course. And so it's kind of things they should have done. But anyway, there's a lot of flexibility to the project. And as long as it's something that's useful to you, and you hit the right elements required in the paper, then I don't have a problem with it. There's a 4 to 5 page thing requirement, and we don't do APA or any of the formatting type things. But again, don't use 15-point type and you know huge margins trying to get your 4 or 5 pages. But anyway, if you put in the effort and you come up with a good plan, that's what's important. You'll have goals in life. A lot of things are really kind of driven by saving for retirement. If you save for retirement, you can typically tap into that money to do a lot of other stuff. If you notice, like for example, on that property that I own, and a couple pieces of property I bought, they're actually not in my name. They are, but they're for the benefit of. They're held as a individual retirement account, which you can do. And I still own the property, but it's It's money I'd made in the stock market, and I tend to go after pretty volatile stocks. And so when I do well, you know, I don't necessarily look towards the long-term goal of some of these companies, the long-term growth, and so I'll tend to cash out of that stock and buy some property or something. And property is obviously much more stable. So anyway, different ways to get through things. But if you're saving for retirement, there's all sorts of IRS provisions and other things where you can tap into that money to use it for other sort of midlife kind of requirements as they come along. First time home buyer, or some sort of outrageous medical bills or something. You can declare a hardship and get access to that money. So when I'm talking about saving for retirement, it's not just for retirement. It can be used for other things. And also you can take loans against it. I use that for business loans all the time. If I need 50 grand or something, I can take a loan from myself, and you still have to pay interest on the loan, but guess what? The interest is paid to you. So it's like 3 or 5%, but the person who gets that interest, so it's essentially a quick, easy loan, and there's no penalties associated with it. So that's a loan. I'm not cashing anything out. It goes back into the fund as you pay back a loan on a 401k, for example. It goes right back into your account, so it doesn't concern the IRS at all. Life insurance, or different types of insurance. We'll talk about that. And then again, in your paper, you're going to explain, based on what you've read or what you've gleaned out of this course, what type you would get. And then also, how you're going to get ahead. If you're, say you're going to put all your money in a savings account with your bank, good luck. You're not going to get there from here. You can't expect a like a regular bank savings account to even keep up with inflation. So you got to figure out, what your different investment options are, what you can live with, and do that if you want to be able to make a bit of money. And you don't have to. It's not gambling. You don't have to take extreme risks, but you do have to do something other than probably just a savings account. 401k, 403b. 403b is like a 401k, but for nonprofits like educators or potentially, I guess hospitals would be the same way. Although some are for profit, I'm not sure, but it definitely is for educators. TSP, through a savings plan for military people. Um, anyway, more of the course, time value of money, and that's it. So we'll revisit that project, and don't get too hung up about it. But again, don't wait till a week before the test, or a week before the end of the term, which is a week before the final. You're going to probably have lots of other things going on by then. Structure expectations. So, in the videos, we'll talk about a bunch of issues, subjects. We'll also have homework in there. The grading. So the two exams, both 30%. Pardon me. Well, COVID kicking in. Homework 15%, project 15, and lecture video comments. Not the video lectures, not this kind of lecture. There'll be other like YouTube clips of other people that I'll pick. And you just write a sentence or two. Yeah, this guy, I don't, I never thought of it that way, or yeah, I agree with it. I don't agree with it. Whatever. I don't. You're not graded on your content on that. You're just graded on the fact that you looked at the video, and they're not going to be horribly long videos. Um, accessibility stuff, class schedule. So here we are almost. So you can see I'm the night before. We are way ahead of the game, but it won't get published till tomorrow. Whenever I get introduction, financial plan, tax concepts, uh, midterm coming up in October. Whoops, didn't mean to make that red. Oh boy, I just won't save it. Investing fundamentals, stocks, bonds, and then Thanksgiving week. We'll just take the whole week. and then we'll come back and we'll do a course summary and final exam prep. So when you're reading through the book and you're listening to the lectures, um, I'll try to hit on all the items in the test throughout the course of the lectures. But before we actually do the exam, I'll do kind of like a review where I'll summarize, what to expect on the test. So if we get off on a tangent and miss something, you won't be left out. We'll make sure you do well. Don't save. Okay, so this chart that I was talking about. I'm going to get it back up to presentation mode. So this is kind of interesting. So this is a Roth IRA. There's two different kinds of IRAs that I'm not expecting to, teach you tonight, but I'll just, it'll be review for you when we talk about it later in the class. You can have a traditional IRA. In a traditional IRA, what that means is it's an individual retirement account. That's the IRA part. And let's say you're making 100 grand a year and you don't want to get taxed like you're making 100 grand a year and you want to save some money for retirement. So what you do is you come up with a strategy to, invest 20,000 bucks out of your 100 grand. So now you're going to get taxed as somebody when your adjusted gross income, your AGI is going to be 20,000 less. So let's say you're getting taxed now as somebody who's making 80,000. So that's a better situation. And that 20,000, you put it in an IRA, an individual retirement account, which means that, with certain exceptions for hardship and the rest of that, you can't touch it till you're 59 and a half. Fair enough. Then there's a different type of IRA. There's a Roth IRA, and that's what this is. The compound interest is going to work exactly the same on both of them, but the tax consequences at the end are going to be different. So with that first IRA I was talking about, a traditional IRA or just IRA or 401k would be the same method. You're not taxed on that money when you earn it. So you made 100 grand, but 20,000 of it was not taxed because it was put away in this IRA. Well, the gotcha is that when you retire and you start to pull that money out, that's when that money is taxed as income. But theoretically, if you're somebody who's retired, at 60, 65, your income will probably be less because that's where you're drawing out of your IRA because you're in retired status, and so your tax hit should not be as high. Your tax percentage. We'll talk about tax brackets and all that another evening. Okay, so the reason why I'm going through this lengthy explanation is because what we have here is a Roth IRA, and the only thing Roth means is, well, some politician came up with it, but Roth IRAs, what happens there is you're using after tax money. So let's say you made 100 grand and you get 20,000, take 20,000 to put, well, you can't use that much of the Roth. There's limits. But let's say you get 5,000 of your income, and you use that for a Roth IRA. Um, with a Roth, you have already paid the taxes on that money. There's no immediate tax benefit to you in that year. So if let's say you're making $85,000 a year, right? And you put 5,000 of your money in a Roth IRA, you're still taxed as somebody who's making 85,000 a year. It has no impact on it whatsoever. Okay, but the good news is since you've already paid the taxes on it, when you do retire, you don't pay taxes again. You only pay taxes once, right? So anyway, back to the heart of this chart. Okay, so in this case, this guy says he's making 10% interest. And for some of you, that's why I'm saying you're not going to get 10% interest on any kind of savings account. Anything that's, government securities or anything that's ultra safe is not going to be paying you an interest rate like that. But where you can get 10% rate is, well, on some real estate, but primarily in the stock market. And the stock market is a huge place. We'll talk more about that. But if you look at the Dow Jones Industrial since the turn of the century, um, since the 1900s. If you look at the annualized yield, and there's good years, bad years, but the average yield has been 10%. So it's not, inconceivable that, in fact, the past couple of years, it's been at least that. So if you're making 10%, you can get that. The other charts I had here, I had one for 8%, which is more conservative, and then 5%, which is pretty conservative. But again, well beyond what a regular bank is going to give you. If you keep in mind that inflation is probably going to be about 3%, on a given year, at 5%, you're only really making a couple percent over inflation. And so inflation has to do with buying power, right? If you have $100 this year, um, next year you'll still have $100, but as the price of everything is going up, you'll probably only be able to buy $97 worth of stuff, the equivalent, just because prices go up. So anyway, let's go roll back up to this 10%. And this was used for a military kind of guy. So he started working quite early. Now it can be, you can adjust this. You can go through the chart wherever you like, but that's why the age starts at 18. It's not inconceivable that, a person right in the military, if they were, kind of a hard charger, could start putting away money. And if they did that, let's say this guy comes in the military or gets a job, maybe he's going to do a trade or something, and he's got sufficient income where he or she can put away $500 a month, which would equate to 6,000 a year. But let's say he takes December off, 5,500 a year. So this person is putting away 5,500 per year until age 50, and then 6,500 until age 65. So, this $500 a month is probably going to be a bit of a challenge when you're younger, but when you're, in your prime earning years, $500 a month for all of your savings is probably not that big a hurdle. And then, he gets up to age 65, and then we look at a value, 10% return, ROI, return on investment, and then we look at a cost of delay. So this is where, whatever this seems to defy logic. When you look at these numbers, granted, $5,500 a year is reasonable amount of money, but do you know how much money you'll end up with at age 65 if you follow this chart? And there it is. $5.3 million. I mean, you're not just a millionaire, you're a millionaire 5 times over. So, I mean, that's what can happen, the power of compound interest. Now, if the person delays, let's say, well, I'm going to pay off my student loans, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to start saving. At age 35, we're looking at $1 million. So it's not down by half; it's down by five times, a factor of 5. And then the further you get into the program, if you're having trouble saving, this is what these numbers are showing you, is that this precipitous drop happens because of your delay, and that has to do with compound interest. And also, if it would be more complex chart, but let's say, right here at age 50, put in 20,000 a month or something like some freakish number, you're still not going to get to the 5.3 million because the money does not have enough time to work. Okay. Now, all these charts, this power of compound interest, this can also work against you. If you're somebody who has credit cards that are, rolling up interest, that too compounds, but now that compounds against you. So just as numbers can exponentially grow, that can be used as a force for good or a force for bad. It can be used either way, depending on, whether you have some knowledge in personal finance or not. So this was just a blow up of that same chart. I guess I could have rolled to that, but yeah, the 5.3 million, and then just by waiting to age 27, it's down to less than half of that. So, but if you're in college, you're investing. That's an investment itself. So, I just wanted to throw that out there in terms of compound interest. Now we're just going to jump into some of the book topics. Financial plan. Yeah, we're kind of aware of what that is. Process of planning, spending, financial goals. Opportunity cost is a huge concept. Opportunity cost is, let's say you're somebody who goes, to whatever you have, whatever your vice is, whether it's, a $5 cup of coffee or a $10 pack of cigarettes or whatever it is. When you spend money on one thing, you don't have it available to spend on something else. So when somebody says, "Well, I can't start saving yet because I've got a lot of expenses," and you kind of look at their lifestyle and you say, "Look, you're spending, $5 a day on a cup of coffee when whatever, 150 bucks there." Or other things. You'll just see people doing things, or if you choose one type of investment, or get hung up in payments on a vehicle, for example, and now you have money that you know would otherwise be going for an investment or perhaps even saving up to buy a house. It's life is full of trade-offs, and so if the concept of opportunity cost means if you do something with your money, there's something else that you have to forego. Um, Financial advisors. So the problem with some of the financial advisors is anybody who's on a commission, generally they don't have what you would call a fiduciary, you know, uh, standpoint when they're talking to you. They're fiduciary would mean that they're focused solely on your best interest, whereas their interest may be in racking up a commission or doing whatever, or they may be pushing a stock that they happen to hold or get a better percentage on it. Financial advisor, that's a huge, students and people are always asking me for advice, but it's tough to even find anybody in the area who is a advisor that you could trust to provide you, unbiased, um, knowledge, because they usually also have products that they're selling. So the best people for financial advisors are the people that you hire like a lawyer, where you pay them, a set fee per hour. You pay them a few $100s per hour to go over your finances every year or two, and that can help you greatly because they don't have anything to sell. Um, Components of financial plan. So budgeting, tax planning, liquidity. Liquidity has to do with cash being available. Sometimes you'll see people who are incredibly wealthy on paper. They have a tremendous amount of assets, but they're not able to finance things on a daily basis because they have no liquidity at all. Protecting your assets, obviously, you need um, some protection in there. Typically, insurance for there's a legal requirement for obviously automobile insurance, but home insurance too. If you got a mortgage, your lender's going to insist upon you having insurance. Investing your money, we'll talk about that, and planning your retirement and your estate. So your estate would be basically after you're gone, what's going to transpire. Um, Assets and liabilities. So yeah, assets kind of alluded to what you own. Liabilities are what you owe. and that net worth is the difference between the two. So, people who say they live in $1 million home, they might not be anywhere near to being a millionaire because if the bank owns the majority of it, that's different. Different people, probably where you are. Some people save everything, some people spend everything. So we talked about liquidity, money management. This will be fairly short because this is all just kind of boilerplate stuff. There's not a lot of in-depth concepts in this introductory chapter. Credit management. So again, having loans and people who say, "Oh, I want to be completely, without debt." Oh man, I want to be completely without credit card debt because it's horrible. It's not tax deductible and the interest rates are high. But if it's a home, if it's property, something like that, where the interest is low and the interest is tax deductible, that's not a bad thing. That's how you get ahead. So it all depends on the credit. And like I say, there's lots of different options for getting money. As a rule, banks will only loan you money when you don't need it. If you're truly a deadbeat, you know, they generally don't have much money for you. But if you've got quite a bit of money, then they're eager to give you a loan, which is, it's always in the wrong place at the wrong time. Managing liquidity. So loans needed for large expenses, college tuition, car, home. Cars are kind of unusual. A lot of times the only way to get the best price is with the loan. They usually have incentives built into the loan, and if you pay cash. But again, the best way with vehicles is to avoid it. Minimize your vehicle expenses altogether because vehicles are not investments. It's probably the worst, place to have your money. A home is an asset. A home appreciates. Cars depreciate. Tuition, obviously got to do what you got to do, but that keep in mind that chart and the delay to save and the what can happen there if you delay. So don't be tempted to take on too much loan, and we'll talk more about loans as we go. Yep. Insurance planning. Again, legal requirements have automobile, typically a lender requirement to have homeowners. Health insurance, it's a big mess right now. We'll see, what gets sorted out from it. Um, Disability and life insurance, there's smart ways to do this, and there's some rather, you know, not not smart ways to do this. There's a lot of variability, and particularly in the world of life insurance. Life insurance is sort of a temporary need when you're younger, and when you're older, you do not need life insurance because all those things that you're insuring against have already taken place, like your kids went to school, your house is paid off, the rest of that. So anyway, it's it's an interesting subject. Planning for your investing. Um, Risk and return are definitely related, and but there's also a risk in doing nothing. Again, if you put your money in a regular savings account, you are accepting the fact that you're never really going to get ahead and your money's never really going to be working for you. You're going to be paying, huge interest on credit cards and other things, and your money that could be working for you, you're accepting, little to no return. So anyway, retirement and estate planning. So again, retirement planning and putting money away for retirement is money that you'll probably draw upon as you go through life, and then finally, you know, start to withdraw when you're actually in retirement. Estate planning, that has to deal with how it will be passed on. But again, there's smart ways to do that if you want to get the maximum amount of money or maximum, part of your estate to those beneficiaries, the people you're passing on to. Building your own plan. So there's all kinds of resources out there, all kinds of, fairly good sites and, planners and all that that we'll talk about, and you'll be able to utilize when you're doing your term paper. Yep, inflows and outflows. This has to do mainly with liquidity, budgeting. Again, you don't want to obsess over it, but you need to have a plan and then avoid shortages. Some people are big budgeters, other people not so much. There's again all sorts of tools, but you have to figure out what's the most efficient for you and what's really required based upon your personality. Some people can get by without any type of budget, and other people need something pretty rigid. Also, if you're married or whatever, you've got another person you've got to, deal with, and so a lot of times you can avoid tension by having a agreed to budget and just execute the plan rather than do every situation as an individual event. So your job, your cash, and products and services. Hmm. Typically, the best way to do this, in terms of saving money, is to decide how much you need to save and just make that an expense. You know, pay yourself first. Do not decide that, hey, I'm just going to um, invest or save whatever's left at the end of the month. There'll always be something come up, and guess what? There will be nothing left at the end of the month. If you just allocate a certain percentage, a certain dollar figure, 10%, whatever, some amount, and you know whether you get paid once a month or twice a month or whatever, you take that percentage out off the top in front. And sometimes it's even done by your employer or by some sort of savings plan. If your employer offers some sort of match, where they give you a portion, you put down, say, 3%, and they match it with another 2% or whatever your company's, incentive scheme is, you definitely want to take advantage of that. But anyway, however you choose to do it, it's important that you pay yourself first. Cash flows, liquidity. So again, liquidity is not that tough a concept. It just means having the money available when you need it. Should you lease a car? No. Well, anyway, it depends on the particular situation, but unless you're a huge, business owner with write-offs and the rest of that, it usually doesn't even make sense either. Borrow money to purchase a car, we'll go through all these, but these are just, questions. Borrow money to purchase a home, typically yes. Because if you wait, that home is going to, the home that you would like is going to appreciate. And you'll also be a renter. Renters, they basically get screwed. Renters, you don't write off the interest paid. You don't write off the taxes paid. Your landlord does that. He benefits from that, not you. So um, anyway, we'll talk about these sorts of decisions. Protecting your wealth. So the type of insurance you need and really when you need it. Again, it's especially for life insurance, it's not typically a permanent need. And for, super wealthy people, they don't even have insurance. They'll suck it up, and rather than pay a premium, University of Alaska or State of Alaska is self-insured. they've got the resources where they can cover it if something were to happen. So they're not faced with insurance payments. You as an individual, you could actually post a bond and say you've got the resources to cover traffic accident or whatever, and the amounts required, and um, that's your proof of insurance, and you don't have to have insurance. That's Most of us aren't in that situation, but anyway, there's all sorts of variables in between by how much insurance you have. Um, Protecting your home or protecting your cash flows. Personal investing. It can be kind of interesting, especially if you're, and we've had pretty positive times. I mean, I feel bad for people that are scared to be in the market. I mean, they're leaving a lot of money on the table. You can do quite well if you're at all savvy about investing. Cash flows from investing. And the good thing about these investing, a lot of times, especially when you invest in real estate, you can enjoy it right then. Having a stack of cash in a mutual fund somewhere is not quite as exciting as having a property that you can live on. So, and retirement and estate planning. These are usually the same types of investments, and so it's not going to be completely different, but there are some idiosyncrasies and some government kind of wickets that you deal with to make it more profitable. And summary of the components. So yeah, there's some short run things you can do. Work more hours, cash from savings. That will, you'll do yourself in. You're not living within your means. Get a loan, which is just going to exacerbate the problem. Insurance policy. If you've got an insurance policy that has a cash value, you're probably screwed up already. Um, Term life insurance is typically what people would use, and there's no cash value to it. So sell some of your investments. Again, these are all short-term things that are, how'd you get in this situation would be the more interesting thing. Withdraw, take a loan against it, not so bad. To actually withdraw money, yeah, that's a 10% penalty right off, and then that's added to your income and you're paying more taxes. So none of these are good ways of generating cash. Now, if there's some screaming real estate deal or something where you need to get cash and you're going to suck up a penalty, that's fine. Uses for cash. Yeah. A lot of charts in this section. Most of these lectures will not be quite like this. Main intent tonight was to talk about the syllabus and kind of highlight, compound interest, which will come back throughout this course, but really come back throughout your life. People who understand compound interest will do well. People who don't will not. Integration of financial planning components. So just a review. I'm not going to get into so much of the psychology bit of it. You have to know kind of what you're up against based upon your personality. You could be, set up to make really good decisions, or you might be kind of fighting against yourself. But one way or another, you got to come to a place where you're going to, learn how to manage your personal finance issues. Um, you know, Given your unique set of attributes. Yeah, immediate satisfaction, peer pressure. You know, do you really need, a brand new car every 3 years? Do you really, whatever? You need to invest in assets that are going to appreciate. Um, and so you could do that by, getting by with something else, focusing on the future, sucking it up. I mean, one of my primary cars is a Volkswagen Jetta. It's kind of some of you may like Jettas. I don't mean to get you wrong, but mine's not a particularly good one. But I've got a bunch of trucks, 5 or 6 trucks, and work ranch trucks. But then I've got a Jetta that I use as a commuter. It's a little embarrassing. People give me grief, but whatever. Uh, access your own spending behavior. Assess your own spending behavior. Sorry. Anyway, credit card bills. You want to be there's nothing wrong with credit cards, but you want to be a convenience user. If you pay the bill every month, you don't pay any interest. The only thing you get are the perks, the good stuff. But if you let the bill build, yeah, then you're going to be paying horrendous interest. Uh, pay yourself first, you'll get around this, and that will be that. The way we do homework here is the problems are assigned, but you don't hand them in every week. You'll turn it as a bulk assignment. Um, yeah, also look at that Excel spreadsheet and, you know, look at some of those numbers and just kind of explore. And you can, see just how it's amazing, just the amount of money that you can generate. Um, and it's far easier. You want to get to a point in your life where your income, that the amount of money you're taking in every month, is exceeded by the amount of money your investments are generating. Your money's working harder than you are, and that's a good thing. Then you have so much more flexibility. If you got a job that you've decided is crap, you can quit it, or at least you can quit it for a certain length of time and find something else. You're not stuck. You're not living from check to check. So once you can get your personal finance life in order, and once you can learn to live within your means and build up a nest egg that will give you kind of a buffer, you have so much more freedom in your life. One of the things about saving money, there'll be a video. I think there's a gentleman, I guess he wrote a book about, I can't remember, it's something, Richest Man in Babylon or something. Interesting kind of guy. I've never read his book, but what he says about paying yourself first and doing all that kind of stuff is spot on advice. So that'll be an example of the type of video that you'll see posted in here. And again, on that, you just go in there and you say, oh yeah, I like the guy, but his hand gestures are annoying or whatever, which they are. And you'll get your 5 points or whatever it is for the week. So that'll do it. Any questions, let me know. But this is kind of how the course will continue. We'll do these lectures, like I say, expect them to be posted typically on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. As the exams come up, make sure you're kind of ready. Um, the term paper, the earlier you start on it, or at least start thinking about it, the better. And it shouldn't be too bad a course, and it should, literally, I'm not exaggerating. If you learn these lessons early in life, because everybody will be a financial expert by the time they retire, but with the time value of money, if you figure it out in your 50s, you can't get there from here. You're way too your money does not have enough time to work for you. If you can somehow become disciplined or make some money when you're younger and put it away in smart investments, your life will be set, and you won't have to obsess about money, and people around you will be, much happier as well, because you'll be able to provide and not be stressed about money either. So anyway, good luck, and talk to you next week.